This is the city commission work session meeting, 5 o'clock, Thursday, March the 10th, 2022. Roll call, please.
Mayor Litchfield,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Moya.
Here.
Commissioner Guerrero,
Here.
Commissioner Arias,
Here.
Commissioner Terry.
Here.
First on the agenda is discussion items. Discussion regarding the events coordinator. Mark, you gonna lead this?
Yes, ma'am. We had been talking about this for
Right.
some time now. And the beginning discussions were real preliminary. We weren't ready to really move forward at the time. Had to take some time to do a little bit more research. With that being said, we're getting closer to Lodgers Tax formulating their budget before it's presented to the city commission for the recommendations, both on applications for events as well as Lodgers Tax requests for the museums and Chamber of Commerce, et cetera. So I felt this meeting would be the best meeting to start, or not start, but continue conversations with this position, to move forward with an event coordinator as soon as possible for the sake of not letting some of the events slip through the cracks.
Well, and summer months are coming, our busy season, so.
So we want to stay ahead of that. There is no action item tonight. It's just informational. It's relaying some of the information. Commissioner Cherry had asked me to do some kind of feasibility study. There's no way I could do that in the past couple of weeks. It's been extremely busy. So I reached out to Scott at the chamber to try to help assist with that and reach out to some of the other entities we had discussed to talk about how they fund or how they created these event coordinator positions and what their scope of duty was. Kind of get a better idea of what might work for Tucumcari. So at this time, I turn it over to Scott. I provided some emails that Scott sent to me. Some of it is in regards to allowable uses of Lodgers Tax to show that we can use Lodgers Tax for these types of the proposal that we have presented, as well as there's some information from the different entities that have event coordinators. And there's also, I believe, a handout speaking about, what's that? I can find it.
Before Scott talks, after you get done, I might say something too.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead. I can't find it.
Well, I know in the history of the Chamber of Commerce, they've been the ones that have been, I mean, I remember when Dorothy Coles was there, when Patsy Gresham was there, they've been the ones that have headed these events to begin with. And so, I guess it went away from the chamber when, well, like Gail Sanders, because she was a volunteer and took over. She didn't have the background like everybody else does. We've never had anyone with the education right now, like Scott has, to run the Chamber of Commerce. And so I think we need to look into that seriously, because the chamber did run run most of these events in Tucumcari. So to me, that's where it should come from. So anyway, that's just what I want to say.
Actually, we had two. We had Dorothy Wooder and Dorothy Cole, both employees of the chambers at the same time.
Yeah.
And they were handling, that's why they had two employees, not one.
And that's what I was gonna relate to. I did find that it was a third handout where it talks about, since 1910, the Tucumcari-Quay County Chamber was organized for the purpose of promoting the educational, cultural, civic, commercial, industrial, and agricultural development of the city of Tucumcari and the Quay County and the state of New Mexico. The Tucumcari-Quay County Chamber is the organization through which business and professional people, clubs, and other organizations, churches, and individuals work together for the common good of the community. So that's, like you said, the chamber's been doing this. It's not unheard of. I think it just lapsed. It was,
Right.
certain things are being channeled through the chamber for a while, and then it lapsed. Now we're trying to pick it back up again and be more efficient. And yeah, so with that, I'll turn it over to Scott.
Yeah, so I have all the research behind some of those findings and those emails, if you'd like me to go over any of that. That quote that the city manager just gave is straight from my bylaws, so I actually brought a copy of those if you'd like to see. I also reviewed the Lodgers Tax manual, and I have some findings from that, which was another page that you have as well. Typically, what I found is that historically the chamber was supported until 2012 under Patsy Gresham's tenure, and then slowly and surely the support was dropped ask by ask. The chamber never had to come in front of Lodgers Tax with the standard application We were just coming for a report month or quarterly on what we were doing with the money that was allocated to us. So it was kind of like pay and be reimbursed, I believe. But I'm kind of speaking out of the box. I couldn't tell from the actual paperwork that I have. All I could see is that we weren't filling out applications for lodgers.
Scott, I don't want to interrupt you.
That's okay. Yeah, I don't
If you
have
don't
an
mind a
agenda,
question.
so.
What was that funding in 2012? Do you know?
Yeah, $4,500 a quarter, or excuse me, a month. So if you do the math.
50,000.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
And then slowly down to 30, and then eventually to where I took over where we weren't receiving funding. That's why I was trying to focus on the idea that this is not a new position promised to anybody. This is a chamber position. This is what the Chamber of Commerce is supposed to be performing for you guys. And how that got lost in the system, I'm not sure. But the area chambers of commerce all have an event director. We didn't find a precedent for the event director being paid through lodger's tax, but you remember our community is different. So like, for instance, in the case of Santa Rosa, they're paid through Parks and Rec. Why? Because they have a huge water park and they have the Blue Hole. The Taos, they have 3 event coordinators, 3, one for the county, one for the chamber, and one for the city. Of course, they get a huge influx of population with the skiing, but they necessitate 3. And Santa Rosa, Julian Baca was taken on part-time in October as an event coordinator through the chamber, and now he's full-time. So Santa Rosa has 1 as well. I did reach out to Deming and Raton, and I'm still waiting on feedback from them about how they have and pay their event coordinators, but they have 1 as well. I also set precedents from lodger's tax. I have a copy of that. Like I said, I reviewed Silver City. If you go through there, which I'm sure you can read, Taos has a population of 5,967 with 3 event coordinators. Silver City has 2 with a population of 9,627, and Santa Rosa has 1 with a population of 3,379. So that was basically the case studies in a nutshell. Let's see, what else do I have here for you guys? We also set through a Create Bridges update, and they basically found from all of their research through businesses and the community itself that there's a huge need for the Chamber of Commerce. So their strategies are for priorities that they suggest for the 3 counties that they were studying is support chambers from the business side. And the priority number 3 from the employee side is support, equip, and amplify the Chamber of Commerce offices in all 3 counties with trainings, workshop classes, events, social media, promotions, graphics, videos, brochures, and billboards. That's because the chamber typically does do the promotion for the city, and we used to as well. So I don't know if you have specific questions on some of the things that I outlined. I'd be happy to answer those for you. Here are my bylaws, and I marked the lodger's tax if you'd like. So in the idea sheet too, you can see I was basically using this as an opportunity to say what my skills could help with. The event list there was just an idea, and I think now we've kind of changed that a little bit. So it wasn't necessarily these events even, it was just saying that these events could be a possibility for the chamber to take over in promotion or co-promote with a different entity, like in Fired Up, that would be a co-promotion with Main Street. Our Wheels on Fire promotion has been given to us from the private entity that was running that. So that is our event. It's going to be a opportunity for us to do some fundraising with the bike event. And historically, I heard that it was a part of Fired Up. So that's why I was trying to put those 2 events back together. And I don't know if that's how we will go forward, because Wheels on Fire, the promoters asked us not to do it till 2023.
I'm sorry, the what? Who asked you not to do it?
The promoter, the gentleman, Brandon Goldstein, he was the one that set up
Yes.
Fired Up. He was on my board. We took it over as of, I think, 2019. We didn't have one in 2020. And he's asked now, since the mandate wasn't lifted in time, he was still hesitant on whether or not to do it. And because we're so far in the year, he thinks that the bikers need to know in December. So he would like us to do a better, like, all-out blowout for that rather than try to bring it back on a crippled sort of schedule.
That makes sense, thank you.
Also, you'll notice things like the convention center on there. Well, I know that I didn't interview with you guys as a group. I interviewed with my board, but convention centers are one of the many venues that I ran in the past. I'm just asking to help if that is needed. And I think that it fits in well with promoting the city because everywhere I went with ABA and such, the Chamber of Commerce had their convention center represented with them in part of the sales packet. So that's why I included that. It seems like it's a natural fit for the chamber to help promote events there at the convention center. But it would still need a staff and it still needs its manager and all of that. You know, it would just be an opportunity for the chamber to help with promotions. The ambassador of Film Tucumcari, that again is not taking anything. You have a liaison in Bobby Hockaday, but he would like an office. And so we have an extra office space in the Chamber of Commerce. When we have people coming in asking about movies, we would have an office set up with photographs and all the pertinent material for people that want to come and film. So it looks like we're legit. But would a person be staffed and sitting there? No. But it is just, you know, as a impression to guests that are coming in. The museums too, that's just helping. I'm on the board for the Historic Museum. I'm probably going to step down because I got too much on my schedule right now. Still help them because they're chamber members, but it's helping to give the museums a collective voice. One person that they could come to, and then I could come to the city or Mark or manager and say, collectively, here's our problems. How can we help all of these museums? And that would just be helping as an ambassador, just a voice.
Okay, on the Wheels on Fire partnership with Main Street, that would just be your part in the Fired Up.
That's
Connie
correct.
would still be in charge of Fired Up.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. And I would just add something to her event.
Right.
Kind of like the Very Merry Tucumcari where we did the light parade and she did Very Merry Tucumcari. It's like I do the light parade part, she does
Okay,
that part. Yeah, it's just not reinventing the wheel, but
right.
jumping on and helping promotions be better. The visitor center. I mean, we have a visitor center now that's, I'm trying to keep open, you know, steadily from 9 to 6. And I have a report for you guys on attendance. Since we took over, we had 61 people in 2018, 61 people in 2019, 11 people in 2020. Since I took over in May of 2021, we had 159 guests through. And so far this year, we've had 58 guests through. Now that's families, so it's more than one, but that's already what we did in a year, just January and February, basically. So the visitor center idea is working. It's a great touch point. I take a negative and make it a positive. Yeah, we don't have museums open, but hey, you can stay and look at the neon at night. Or hey, you know, some of our murals are lit up, you can see that at night. So it's just not having a negative response to guests that are coming in and looking to stay. I feel like I wanted to tell you guys a lot more, so I'm sorry if I'm missing something, Mark.
How about if I help you and ask you for a lot?
Okay, yes, do.
Okay, Scott, with all your interactions with these other cities, and I was trying to look here and see, how many has the event center funded by the chamber that also uses lodger's tax? Do you know?
Of the ones that I studied,
Yes.
none of them. They don't require lodger's tax at all.
Okay, so they're all funded
They're all
through the chamber.
yeah, either through chamber events.
Okay, Taos has three. They have a city, they have a convention center. Now their convention center is, for lack of a better term, farmed out. They have and so is Silver City. Somebody else runs the convention center.
Yeah, I think that's true, but one of them just took it back and it's now the county and I can't remember
Silver
which
City,
one
that's
did.
Silver City.
Yeah. But I was looking for precedents in lodger's tax, but you have to remember the other communities that we're using as, examples, they have different situations.
Well, the one that Silver City has an RFP from the city.
Yeah, so the chamber runs their convention center.
Okay, so, you don't by any chance have a copy of their RFP?
No, but I can get one.
That'd be nice to see what the other cities are doing.
Okay. Is there a pin over there?
And my point is that I want
Fell off. It's
to
behind the chair.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I saw.
Oh, here.
I don't want to reinvent the
Right.
wheel on any of this. Somebody else is successful at this. I don't mind copying.
And this is something that really can't wait till the beginning of first quarter. We have events that need to be produced now. For instance, if we were to take over the New Mexico Showcase, there's an idea that that would be a Hispanic culture event that would happen during Hispanic Culture Month. That's historically September 15th through October 15th. That's a great window. We also have an event, which I have here, requested by Amarillo. Remember when I went to the American Bus Association, I met the director for Visit Amarillo. They do an event, and you don't have this because it's new from yesterday, but they do an event called the Hoodoo Mural Fest in Amarillo. Then those people drive from Amarillo to Albuquerque for the Balloon Fiesta. I told the Visit Amarillo lady, you're passing the city of murals on the way. Is there a way that we can establish a stop? She said, absolutely. If you guys would plan an event for October 3rd, I will ship all of my people from my event to your event and then continue on to the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta. That is a great opportunity to work with another city. So we need to plan that and have that ready. So that would be something that needs to be worked on now, although maybe that budget ask does fall into lodger's tax this time for the entire event. Someone needs to be working on that now.
Well, I guess for me to put my 2 cents in, the reason for urgency, still not there. I'd like to see something maybe at the March 24th commission meeting, because I want to continue and still have some kind of an event in June. And to be able to do that, that doesn't give us very much time to complete that. We'd have to have an answer at the end of March. That way we can start coordinating and getting some talent down here, getting different themes. Don't know what that event looks like, if it's free to the public, if there's a ticket price. But I think that would be something worth looking into to get, the money's there, it's already been allocated. I think we need to follow up on that and have that event. The best way to do that is have an event coordinator. So that's why I wanted to talk about the event coordinator tonight and kind of feel the temperature of the commission and see to what extent are we wanting to have the scope, I guess, for this position. I think some of this is extra and doesn't need to be part of the scope. For example, the stuff through Robin and taking over for Robin, she said she's committed to 2 or 3 years. So I think we could take that off, and that's that much less of a burden, because this alone, with this outlines a full-time position. Plus the chamber duties. So I think we got to pick some high points. I think there's some stuff that could be supplemental that works out. The stuff with helping out the convention center, that makes sense considering there's other chambers of commerce entities that actually run a convention center. Being the ambassador for the museums and the film secretary, that makes sense. I just don't want this to be a position where it's overwhelming. Then we have the conflict on the chamber has these expectations, the city has these expectations, we got to meet somewhere in the middle. So I think we got to figure out a way to formulate that and what's realistic. The other thing that I had comments on was the sources for salary. I like to take things on a realistic approach. I believe the Chamber of Commerce would probably be about $10,000 less enlisted on here. And again, this was preliminary. This wasn't set in stone. It was just ideas thrown out there. The county, I think they're solid for 10. Could there be more funds from that? Potentially, but I always want to go on the lower end to be conservative. And then same thing through lodger's tax. That's dependent on exactly what's the scope of this position. But I think just on an administrative standpoint on doing administrative work, I think that falls somewhere in between the $15,000 range. And then it grows from there based on the events. So that's kind of my comments where I stand on it. But again, I wanted Scott to come speak tonight so he could kind of give an update on what he's had time to research and what he's been going through. Because unfortunately I didn't have the time to do that. So thanks, Scott. I appreciate you going out and pulling that information.
So Mark, what's the total salary you're looking for? I mean, what would be the total salary?
Total salary, if it's real conservative, just going 20, 10, and 15 from each entity, that's what, 45,000?
Okay.
But again, that's dependent on the scope of work. If there's gonna be more,
Mhm.
then obviously I think it pays more, but we have to be aware of being practical and what can we really, I don't want to throw everything on the Chamber of Commerce. And that's why I say the marketing would stay with Robin, with the exception of some of the things like the bus tours. Scott's already gone to the one that was in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Tonight, we have another request to go to Branson, Missouri, which has already been approved and recommended from Lodger's Tax. So I think those are the things where he's the face, he's promoting Tip and Carry, but then I also want to make everybody aware that, and I could be wrong, this is just my interpretation of it, as a chamber, you're promoting the businesses, and I don't know if there's favoritism. I think it's promoting all businesses really in Tucumcari and Quay County, but there's also memberships tied with that. So when it comes to city and city distributing funds and trying to promote the city as a whole, it has to be equal and everybody, not just certain members. There's some things to hash out and really think about, but I think this is a good idea. I think it's something that would be beneficial to the city for tourism. I think it'd be beneficial for lodger's tax. I think it'd be beneficial to the city as a whole. The one thing I wanted to add to this is what I had brought up about a year ago, as well as the last meeting or a couple before that, is marketing the city of Tucumcari as a municipality. So I gave the example of potholes, and people say, oh, the city workers aren't out there filling potholes. We could have somebody to go out there, take pictures, post it onto social media on the city website, and be able to say, look, these are your city workers hard at work. Anything with the park, the cemetery, just some positive PR for the city of Tucumcari, not just the businesses and promoting tourism, but also promoting the city as a municipality as well.
Well, what does this Robin do anyway? I know she's supposed to be whatever her name is.
So I think she gave a really good, full, in-depth reports at the last lodger's tax meeting. Commissioner Cherry was there, and quite a bit. It's the whole marketing plan. It's everything to coordinating the advertising for all the magazines, as well as all the social media posts. She gave some numbers and some updates, and I wonder if she could maybe put that into some type of spreadsheet or something just to kind of share with the commission. But I thought it was a really good presentation.
How much we pay her?
Pay her $55,000 a year.
I was impressed with her because along with those things she does, there's a quality assurance that they measure the product that they're putting out. So there is a cost benefit that you can analyze and see.
She writes the grant and coordinates all the New Mexico Chew Co-op stuff right now. She's also coordinating with Leighton Moon as a graphics designer for everything to be cohesive, even with our lodger's tax funds that went out to the museums. Everything's branded the same, similar fonts, similar color scheme, and it looks amazing.
This is the lady that gets the grant that we usually write for, is that correct?
Yes.
The chamber used to apply.
The grant, she just applied, and I just got an email on it today. I haven't opened it yet, but it varies. It depends on the menu that we choose. Right now, New Mexico Chew is matching our dollars 2-to-1. So whatever we contribute, they contribute 2-to-1.
$2 to 1?
Yes.
Okay, I'm still, I think, it seems like we have the convention center person that's supposed to be over there doing promotion. We have him, we hired him, and then we have this lady. How do we know we're not overlapping in many ways?
And that's what I'm getting at. We don't want to overlap and pay for something twice. That's what I'm saying. When it comes to all the marketing stuff and advertising, that needs to be spearheaded through Robin, so it's all one centralized location. And eventually that would be passed on. And I don't want to be speaking out of line, but I think Scott at the chamber would be the logical person to do so in 2-3 years when Robin wants to hand it over to a local person. She stated that. At that point, everything would be, and it's one, because right now the chamber used to do our advertising for us for all these different magazines. And then as things lapsed with new personnel and things transitioning, the city took it on to a point. And that's why we had to have some emergency last minute decisions to make sure we kept the back cover of the Route 66 magazine, because it was all over the place. We need to have it in one location and eventually delegate that to somebody local. But it's not, in my opinion, it's not the time to delegate that local at this time. I like to focus more on the event coordinator stuff as well as some of the others, and then eventually mold something into that. And at that point, we might be so successful that we may have a completely standalone event coordinator position separate from the chamber. I don't know. But for now, I want to at least start with an idea and try to put this into place so we could be a little bit more efficient.
Well, and if we get this started, instead of bombarding them with everything, let them work into, like you said, Robin said she wanted in 2 to 3 years be able to do this locally. Well, instead of bombarding an event planner right now with, you've got to keep us in the magazines, you've got to do all this, plus coordinate events, that can work into it.
How do we measure how effective these things are? Let's get, because I'll be honest, I'm in the commission, I hear this stuff and we vote on it, and I never get any results. I don't even know the results. Are they really significant enough to have the impact in our economic dollar that's coming into the community and the tourism or that? We do a lot of tourism promotion. How do we measure what is contributing to the most part of bringing them in? This is important to realize. It's okay, it sounds like a good idea, but we also have to understand how are we gaining? Where is the dollar? What kind of measurements are we going to have? How significant is this thing? We can talk about how good it is and a lot of stuff, but if it's not really affecting the almighty dollar, then we got a problem.
So
And I don't even know this Robin thing, how significant her events are, how big the promotional is. I very rarely hear from her, and I don't miss a single commission meeting. And so I don't really know that, I mean, you guys tell me it's all great and done, but I don't get any numbers of how this thing is impacting our dollar, our tourism dollar, or our largest tax return.
Well, I know there's a group of ladies from South Dakota that are planning a trip on Route 66. They saw all of our advertisements in the Route 66 museum or the Route 66 magazine. And that's where they booked for June. They booked the Blue Swallow already because they saw the advertisements in the Route 66 magazine.
Well, I'm not real savvy on a lot of social media, and Robin uses a lot of social media, and they can track
Yes,
hits and inquiries, so I was impressed with that because she has all those figures.
Well, we
I
have
can throw
this.
this out that they are designing a comment cards for all the hotels, so they can track why really that guest is there and what prompted them to spend the night.
Correct.
And that's what we're trying to do.
We have this, then we have the billboards, and then we have people coming before us. Our billboard, we want another billboard way somewhere over the rainbow, And every time you look around, we're spending money, but we have no measurement of how much is really being significantly
well,
impacting the tourism here. And this is important to realize that any business has to know how much money you advertise, how much money is coming back in under that advertisement. If it's not a good advertisement, then you don't need to continue. I think it's great, but I don't get results.
So how do we do that?
hey,
Well, they have to
can I
have some
ask
sort
Jerry
of
something?
measuring their accomplishment or something.
Yes, ma'am. So, Madam Mayor, may I speak, please?
yes, and when you get to, I want to ask Jerry something. too.
Yes, ma'am. So I think the bottom line, the only way to truly prove that
Or
measurement
math.
is money coming in versus what's going out. So we do have a lodger's tax financial report, both on executive and promotional. I can tell you right now, for the entire year, every single month has been a record-breaking month compared to the last 8 years. It's exceeded every month. The hard part is we don't know, is that due to commercials? Is that due to advertisements in magazines? Is that due to the billboards? We don't know. And like Commissioner Cherry said, based on the last lodgers tax meeting, the only way to truly prove it is to ask every single tourist. That's impossible. So if we could at least start getting some of
You
that.
can do
data-
random sampling and come out with statistics like you do in any research.
Yes, sir.
I
That's
mean,
what I was getting to.
don't get ridiculous every tourist we ask, no. You can do random sampling and come out with studies.
And that's what they're doing.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what the
But where are the
cards-
results? Have I got one? No, I haven't got.
Well,
one.
they haven't gotten the cards in the motel. They're just starting that, aren't they?
Yeah, but the
Putting
whole
cards
deal
in.
is, we're talking about a lot of money being put out. I seem to be attacked all the time by this person, that person. Why can't we put another billboard way over there? Why can't we do this? But yet we don't have any way to stand and be significant in telling them this is where the results are coming in. This is the positive part. This is what we're seeing. Now we got the gasoline that's gonna go extremely high. I don't know how much of that tourism we're gonna get. The other thing is Route 6, I-40 is bumper to bumper. I travel it maybe 4 times a week. And we are really, that is one highway, and I travel 80, I travel 25, I travel 70, and I-40 beats the traffic. Is it the increase by itself, or is it really coming in by the advertisement? This is the two significant things you have to look at. Because we want to make sure that every time we put out, we get our dollar back. And like I say, when everybody comes into town, they spend $1, by the time you leave, it has spent 7 times before you leave. And certainly we like to see that. And that's all I.
And that's
care. I'm
something
not
that you could
against it.
actually hold the Chamber of Commerce responsible for, is giving you those reports. You know, like, I know going to ABA that I booked a motorcycle tour that blocked out all of our vintage properties.
Mhm.
You probably don't know that, but that would be something that the chamber would need to do, is say, I went to this, here are all the things that have resulted from going there.
Yeah, because you got motels, for example, you got the I-40 motels, who are really very good motels at the same time. They're the newest one, and people come out, and that's a regular tourist that will come directly in and out to get travel tomorrow. Then you got the Route 66, which people is more historical looking at. Now, do we have a difference in how much we collect on this large tax and on the occupation? We don't. I know there's more on the exits, but at the same time, you can do, you can profile the amount where you the significant how many rooms in the Route 66 is booked in, and how many rooms in the exits are booked in, and that's how you come up with your studies and your numbers.
Well, that's what I was wanting to ask Jerry
Yeah, go ahead, Jerry.
and or Matt, either one.
Jerry can do it.
Okay. When Al gave us those stats the other day about how much money the motels are making now, how much they're coming in now. Remember he?
Yeah, so he, pretty much what like Mr. Martinez was saying, so he was giving us the off-season, travel season from like October, November,
Right.
December. So he said pretty much, it starts picking up April all the way into like September, October, and then you kind of see it decreasing down from November, December, January.
Right.
So he said you could see where the numbers are dropping, where they're coming in.
And he was saying, he was predicting over $600,000, what,
Well,
something like
he said
that.
it's pretty much close. He said that was pretty much the high year back then. He said, but this year it's close to probably hitting 900,000. He said
Yeah, it'll
that's
be
what
about
we're predicting.
850 to 900 according to.
Just in motel revenue.
Yeah, but remember one thing, there was an impact this year that really helped Tucumcari Ferry a lot. Vaughn in that area has 3,000 people employed, and a lot of them stay in the motels in Santa Rosa and Edgewood and all that. So a lot of the flow was a lot more positive for us here, because all those, you couldn't even get a room in Santa Rosa, because I know I got a person that comes to me twice a week. And a lot of it was, they were staying on those motels, they were local workers. So our numbers would look good, because you can't find a room in Santa Rosa, so you had to come to Tucumcari. But that's not gonna happen all the time, you know what I mean? So the numbers should look good for us. And that's what I'm saying. I like to see the study of how effective it is on our advertisements versus just, a change like for the windmills that were happening over there where motels were all booked in, so we were the next alternative.
So pretty much on the studies, doing the social media studies, you have impressions. So when you buy a campaign ad, for instance, so that's what Robin's doing. So when she's buying a campaign ad, it tells you how many people have actually viewed it, how many people has interacted with it. So for instance, say if Scott is the one that's actually doing the marketing, he could have that report because you're buying campaign ads, and it's going to tell you the region and the area that you're targeting it. So he can print out the report, or whoever's doing that report, and it's gonna tell you how many impressions, how many interactions and stuff like that, and how the
But we never
demographic.
get one.
Yeah, so that's gonna be up onto your marketing person.
No,
So,
we never get one. And,
So-
and I know that anybody, you go into YouTube or whatever, you automatically register who's who.
yeah, so that again, that goes with
And we don't
YouTube,
get
you
it.
know, YouTube as well. You'll be able to see who's interacting with that, how many likes, how many, all that stuff. So with that being said, that's the only way you're gonna be able to track that on the social media platform. As your rack cards and all that, you're just gonna have to see how many people took them out of your shelves there. That's the only way. It's gonna be hard. You can say, well, we put 50 rack cards there, and tomorrow you come back, well, all 50 are gone, so you know somebody's took them. But unless you have somebody standing there giving them out and saying, okay, we've had this person get out, and they tell you, okay, I'm from California, I'm from New York, whatever, it's gonna be hard to really track it that way. But as the new modern technology, social media is gonna tell you where those impressions, the interactions, the regions, and you have that benefit, saying, well, we wanna target the people up north, well, then you can start campaigning out there a lot harder than you do on the south or however. So social media is the way to go, because you're gonna start seeing that on every smartphone device. You're gonna start seeing that pop up.
And that's what I like. I like to see numbers because we put in a lot of money out. We're getting a lot of, and everybody has ideas, but we don't know what to tell them when we don't have results or numbers to be able to verify that that's happening.
Well,
Matt, has she provided that type of report to the Lodging Tax Board?
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't want to take your time. Yes, she did. She provided those numbers. It was a very professional, and I should have brought them. I don't know if Mr. Martinez has those numbers.
Not on me, no, sir.
But she provided those numbers to us, and I guess we were impressed enough to renew her contract,
Yeah.
or suggest.
And I think you're right, Commissioner Moya, that we do need to make sure that we're tracking any type of success to make sure that this type of contract is still valid. I think, moving forward in all types of contracts that we have with any other entity here in town or outside, that we maintain that right in getting those types of reports.
And then those reports have to come to this governing body because at the end of the day, we're the ones who okay the money.
Yes.
You know, not the advisory board, not anybody else. It's entrusted to us. We're the agent. And we don't get nothing.
Right.
And so that really I don't even know how many people go into the museum here. I don't know how many people go to the other one. And they're here to come to tell us, we're doing all this good work. Give us some money. And we say, well, give us some numbers. They don't give us nothing.
Right.
You see, this is what makes it really hard as a commissioner when we're entrusted with this type of funding. We want to be responsible to the public we serve. And the only way we can do it if they provide us significant numbers that are verified and validified.
Right. And I agree with you, Mr. Moya. One thing about Scott, every report, he provided numbers. And I think if y'all do decide to go through the chamber, or Mr. Scott here, I think he would provide numbers. He's always, in the lodger's tax, he has provided numbers. So I don't think he'll let you down on that. And I might be speaking out of hand, I apologize. On his salary, you're contracting out, and Mr. Martinez is good with contracts, the mayor, whoever's in charge of the contracts, but what I understand is going to be a 1099 things, and he'll have to pay his own taxes, so you might want to consider that when y'all do your contract, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, that's what it is. If you're a contractor, you're a contractor.
And,
you're not any city employee.
I thought you were running through the chamber though, is it not going to interact with the
No,
chamber?
I thought, yeah.
Right, it
Yeah.
won't be.
It won't
So,
be.
Madam Mayor, Mark,
Okay.
and not everybody agrees with me on this. In the past, we have funded the chamber
Yes, sir.
up to what Scott said, 57,000 a year. I'm for doing this, and I think the best thing is to do it simple. We design a scope of work and fund the chamber based on that, and then Scott can do his contract or whatever he wants to do with the chamber, and we'll just be contracting with the chamber to provide
Provide the service.
whatever services require on the scope of work with some kind of measurement
Yes.
that's based on that. And based on what we transfer from lodger's tax to the chamber to do that is based on what they're gonna do.
Right.
And I agree with the points you made with especially letting them try to do a little bit with the convention center when they're doing their other business.
I think it all intermingles, it all ties together where it makes sense. It's a similar scope, it's marketing and promotion. So why not go with that? But I agree with you, how we were talking about formulating it is, like you said, through the chamber, it filters through there, and I think it's cleaner that way. And then, like you said, through that, it's kind of like an MOU between the city and the Chamber of Commerce, where these are your expectations, these are the goals, these are the benchmarks that have to be made, and this is the funding you receive.
And I think it is important to measure what we're paying for. And if we don't get those numbers, I mean, you guys tell me this lady's doing good, I don't even know it, I don't even know what to do. And then we go do all these billboards, I don't know if they're even effective. We do some other YouTube stuff, promotional, all these things to try and help, but we don't get any results in numbers. And if we can't get, if we don't get numbers or anything, how do we know that we're not overlapping? You know, and that's important, because we want to make sure we get every penny for our dollar.
Then with Robin, it's not that the numbers aren't being provided, it's just we're not getting them.
And I got about the bottom line, is we're the ones
Lodging
that
tax is
allocate
that
the
we're
money.
not, right?
We're the ones who allocate the money.
And that's something I could do, Madam Mayor. I could get those reports and I could forward them off to
Okay.
the commission so y'all can see what.
All right, thank you.
I don't like
Are there
operating
any
blind.
other comments or questions or,
I have a question.
okay,
I'm gonna ask this for either Mark or Scott, because I need some clarity here. Maybe this can be provided to people watching on YouTube. So are you advocating,
Go to the mic, please.
go to the
Oh,
mic,
yeah.
please.
Identify yourself.
I'm basically asking as a reporter, Scott, are you asking to do this events coordinator work yourself, or are you advocating a separate position in addition to?
I'm just advocating to return the chamber to its responsibility. So it's
Okay.
not a separate position at all. It's just basically, chamber, you're gonna do what you're supposed to be doing.
That's my
how
thought.
I
It's
view
not a Scott
Right.
position, it's a chamber.
It's a
responsibility That Scott happens to be sitting in that as a director.
Okay,
I
okay.
just happen
That
to be
would-
the advocator of it, but it's the chamber that wants this.
Okay, so you would be in charge of these sort of duties ultimately.
As long as he's
Okay,
hired by the chamber.
That's
to be
what
the
I needed to
director.
know.
That could change next week.
yeah.
We hope not, but.
Right.
But, I did the expenses, the chamber's supposed to be transparent, so I have the expenses, what we get in, I'm happy to provide all of those numbers as well. Not doing too bad considering we didn't receive funding except for the visitor center remodel. We were still able to hold a little bit of ground. We did lose some money, but that is okay because we were able to hold our own. They didn't pay me the entire salary though, because I wasn't here the full year. So that's a little bit off taken when you see the numbers, but the salary that they agreed to was $30,000 to get me here. They went out on a limb, and I have a board member here too, if you'd like to speak to them, to get me here. But that's the pay that they need, whether it's me or someone else, to be able to attract someone of a caliber that the chamber needs, if that makes sense. No
Right.
offense to the people that were here, they did the best job that they could, but they are not hired for this, they weren't hired for this sort of position. This is, I am a restaurant fixer, I'm a restaurant builder, so I take on every loose end that I can see. That's really what I do. So when I go in, I go kind of for the biggest project, but I appreciate you cutting down the amount of responsibilities to match the pay. I just wanted to show you what I was capable of. But yeah, that, and then also keep in mind, the chamber is still gonna have to come to lodger's tax and ask for the event support. We're only talking about paying the director, you know what I mean? Then I'll have to come each event if we don't do this giant, like this was kind of like an all-inclusive number, that first sheet that you see.
Mhm.
We start picking it apart and we're just gonna do the support for the director, then the director will still have to come for support for Wheels on Fire, for the new Piñata event, if we bring that back, supporting the light parade, supporting Quay Days. There's a whole list of things that we do and we continue to do without support this year. So those things would have to still come back up and say, lodger's tax, I'm going to have the light parade this year. Last year I spent $650. I would like to spend more to amplify that. So that I'm guessing that's how that would play out. I haven't discussed that with the city manager. I'm just guessing that once this is done, then I would still have to come for each event.
So with that, would that need to follow the same process as before then, the applications through lodging tax and?
So the current application cycle that we have open right now is specific to events. Things changed a little bit last year, trying to accommodate and help out some of our local museums and promote tourism. We allow them to request funds as well. I think ultimately that still needs to be ran through Robin. That way it's all cohesive, it's consistent branding. I think that's the easiest. I think that some of these museums could come to the city and request some funds. But I think ultimately those funds would be earmarked and allocated for certain line items, but all that would still funnel through the marketing firm. Going back to that, I wanted to speak a little bit about the budget that we were talking about tonight. I feel the cleanest way to do it is we start talking about a salary, some kind of administrative type fee that the chamber would charge for them to keep their door open when it comes to, for example, we invested $41,000 into the visitor center. I think it'd be in vain if now we don't pay somebody to actually be in person and maintain that visitor center. And I think that's part of this scope. That's one of the check boxes that's where admin fee comes through, and that's one of the allowable expenses through lodging taxes, some kind of visitor or tourism-based entity to be able to make sure it's open and promote it and be open to the public and provide a service.
So with this part-time person, would that be another chamber employee or would that be someone the city provided?
That to me is not even part of this discussion right now. That's something that was on that handout. That's something that through lodging tax, the commission, you could talk about that later. To me, my main focus right now is helping with the event coordinating as well as some of these other items, but the additional person right now, we could further discuss that, but I want to focus on this first.
If you want to put that in the scope of work down the road or whatever, and fund that, and let the chamber decide if they're going to fund it with volunteers or.
And I've reached out since that sheet, and I'm working with Workforce Solutions. We have a job fair coming up October 17th. They're going to do it every 2 weeks. They have another program where they help people coming out of incarceration or something to get job training to move on into business. So that part-time position I'm suggesting right now would be paid for by Workforce Solutions.
Okay, on the contract.
I'm only asking for 1 day a week.
Yeah, you're on this contract. Now, how are we gonna handle when all these people come around from different, events wanting money? Is that all gonna go to you, or how's it gonna go?
I think that in the contract, the city would establish what events it wants. So the June, New Year's Eve, we didn't have anything, 4th of July, like those are the things that are low hanging fruit to me. And then maybe one event that would be like the Piñata Fest or something big, maybe eventually we go to 2 like that or something like that. And then the Wheels on Fire, which would be an internal way for us to make money, because we still have to do that. By the way, we're also expanding our retail. I'm investing in retail, so there'll be retail. So the chamber will be getting, I hope, Wheels on Fire, retail, memberships. So we're not starting ever from zero.
Well, what's happening, like, for example, in the, what is it, New Mexico Showcase?
So
Are you guys gonna do it, or are you just gonna?
The idea is for us to do it in some manner for June. I'm not sure exactly, we're waiting on this to, activate
Then we
me.
wouldn't have them coming before us for money, right?
No, so I could answer that. Commissioner Moya, Mayor Pro Tem Moya, that's the urgency to get this position going now, because there's already $8,000 set aside for the New Mexico Music Showcase. I think that name goes away for legal purposes. I want to build an event similar to it, but start molding it more closer to the old Piñata Festival. That's been the discussion for June. It's so close though for March. I don't think it's going to be a full-blown Piñata Festival, but it's going to be kind of a teaser of what it could be in the future. I've also talked to Scott about wanting to have something in the off season. He's talked about in co-mingling with the
Amarillo,
Hoodoo.
Hoodoo Mural Fest. Mhm.
No matter what that is, at least we have something in October. That way it's an off season. We've had feedback from the different lodgers, and they stated that's when tourism is down. That's the off season. That's when it would help them when it comes to putting money into lodgers tax. Because the summertime, people are traveling anyhow. They're already staying busy. Whether we have events or not, they're going to stay busy is what they tell us. So let's do something in the off season that does bring some more money into to our lodgers, to our restaurants, where maybe you typically wouldn't get that.
What do you need from us next month?
Next, I think we had a good discussion tonight. This was very productive. Now it's hustle and bustle trying to get a scope put together, some kind of agreements by the 24th, and bring this thing to the commission for an action item and see if it makes sense. And we have to amend it that night. We can amend it, make changes, but it'd be nice to have a decision that night. That way we can start coordinating whatever event we may have in June.
Because it does, I mean, just to point that out again, sorry to interrupt you, city manager, but it does need to happen for fourth quarter
Yes.
in order for me to be able to do some of these in some way or fashion.
Good, because I hope
busy.
that if this gets done, I will hope to get some numbers from you.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Because even the conventions, and I don't even know what's going on there, because we don't get numbers.
When I think you remember, I came in and talked to you about Quay Days. I also talked to you about the bus tour. So I want to do those, within 7 to 10 days after the event. Whenever your next commission meeting, you would get a follow-up of what happened.
Because with numbers, when you see them positive, you get a lot of support.
Absolutely.
Because you
Yeah.
have something to defend the money we're spending.
Absolutely.
So we will adjourn, just a few minutes, we'll take about a 5-minute recess. Everybody can, have a coffee or go to the restroom or whatever. Yeah, my hands are freezing.
Ms. Martinez,